So what happens if there actually is a recount? Is it going to change anything?
Well, I can actually answer that question. So recounts can change elections, but it is very, very rare.
Only 27 statewide general elections between 2000 and 2015 ended with recounts. And of those, 3 resulted in a change of the winner. All lead to wins for Democrats. That's 11% of the time. In 2004's governor's race in Washington, Republican Dino Rossi beat Democrat Christine Gregoire by 261 votes. The race was changed after not 1, not 2, but 3 recounts. One of the recounts actually uncovered hundreds of missing ballots that gave Gregoire a 129-vote lead. Fast forward to 2006 and Vermont's auditor's election. With 137 votes over Democrat Thomas Salmon, Auditor Randy Brock, a Republican, was certified as the winner. But a recount requested by Salmon led to the discovery that some of his votes were mistakenly attributed to a third-party candidate for office. A judge overturned the results after the recount gave Salmon a 102-vote lead over Brock. And finally, in 2008's Minnesota Senate race, a 206-vote lead gave Republican Senator Norm Coleman a win over Democrat Al Franken. Franken pulled ahead by 312 votes after a several-months-long recount. Although Coleman tried to fight the recount results in court, the Supreme Court declared Franken the winner 6 months later.
Well, no, because this is the lawsuit from Common Cause.
All right, so back to 2018 and Georgia. Still unclear if the governor's race will lead to a runoff or a recount, but if it does go to a recount, as you can see, recounts have a narrow shot at changing results, but it can happen.